Hello everyone and welcome to P7 Notes. We're talking about equations and how we're going to solve them today. So we have some regular equations, we have a few story problems in here. There seems like a lot, but it's not. They just take a long time. They're actually not like terrible. So make sure you post your questions and let's see how we can do today. All right, we're going to solve linear equations in one variable. We're going to solve linear equations, here we go, that contain fractions. We're going to do rational equations with variables in the denominator. So how do we get them out of there? We're going to solve formulas for a variable and absolute value. A lot of this stuff, guys, is going to show up in your college entrance. All right, we're going to solve equations by factoring, square root, completing the square, quadratic formula. You've done all of this. This should be a review. I do know some of it will probably be a little rusty. That's why we're practicing. We're going to talk about the discriminant that deals with the quadratic formula, and then we're going to solve story problems. All right, let's get moving. Okay, to solve a linear equation, first thing is you have to get the variable by itself. So you move all the numbers to one side and the letters and get the variable by itself. So pause and try this. You should have subtracted 5, giving you 4x equals 24. You should have divided by 4. And you should have told me x equals 6. All right. Something I shouldn't even cover, right? All right. Now, we're going to do the same thing with fractions. I want you to pause and try. Okay, I'm hoping you remembered that you needed to get a common denominator here so that canceled, since there's an equal sign, they will go away. I'm going to do it a little bit differently than you're probably used to. I know 4 is 2 times 2. I know 14 is 2 times 7, and 7 is just 7. I have to make these look the same. So this here guy is missing a 7 from over here, so I'm going to multiply the denominator and the numerator by 7. So now he's got 2 2's in the 7. Well, 14 only has a 2 and a 7. I should use a different color. So he needs another 2 to match this other guy over here. So now he's got 2 2's in the 7, like this one. But I needed to multiply by a 2, so I must also do that to the numerator. The 7 is missing 2 2's. So now he matches, which means I have to multiply the numerator. I'm just going to write 4 since 2 times 2 is 4. Since the denominators are the same, they actually just go away. So now we have, let's do some of this math. 7x times 7 times x minus 3, which gives us 7x minus 21. Equals 5 times 2 is 10. I'm not going to do this one just for a second. Minus 4 times x plus 5. I am hoping you did not distribute the 4 and you remembered that negative in front of there. So that's 7x minus 21 equals 10 minus 4x minus 20. So this here actually becomes minus 10 over here. I am going to have, let's just write this out so it's pretty. So now we have 7x on this side equals negative 4x minus 10 on this side. I need to move the variables to one side, so I'm going to move the 4x. I'm going to add the 4x. Well, since I'm moving the 4x this direction, I'm going to move the 21 to the other. So I'm going to add the 21 here. So this is gone and this is gone. So I did that all in one step. If you need to, that's fine. I'm going to move up here to continue my problem. So now we have 7 and 4, which is 11x equals 11. Divide by 11 and x equals 1. Did you do well? All right, I want you to try again. This and here's the same thing, except now it just has a variable. So give it a shot. Here we're going to recognize we have 2x. 18 is really 2 times 3 times 3, just so we don't forget. So this 2x here, I look over here, is missing 2 3's. So I'm going to multiply by 2 3's or a 9 in the numerator. Okay, the 18 to match this one needs an x. I'm going to put an x here and in the numerator. Well, the 3x, all right, so we've got 3, 3, 2, and x. So I've got the 3 and x. He's missing the 3 and the 2. So he needs another 3 and a 2, which is 6. I'm going to multiply by 6. Are my denominators the same? Let's see, I've got 2 3's, a 2 and an x. Add 2 3s, a 2 and an x. I have 2 3s, a 2 and an x. They are identical. They may leave. So 9 times 5 is 45 equals 17x minus 6. Add your 6 over, so 17x equals 51. Divide by 17, x equals 3. Nicely done. All right, now they're going to try to make them look difficult, but they're really not. They say when does, oh, and this is a typo, there needs to be a 2 here. This is actually y2. So I want to know when y1 equals y2. So I have to set this equal to this. So I'm just asking you, when does 1 over x plus 4 plus 1 over x minus 4 equal 22 over x squared minus 16? Well, if you look at this, you should recognize that this is x plus 4 and x minus 4. Now I have to make these three denominators the same. So this one has the x plus 4. He needs the x minus 4. Don't forget the numerator. This one has the x minus 4. He needs the x plus 4. This one is okay, so he needs nothing. Denominators are gone. So now we have x minus 4 plus x plus 4 equals 22. The 4's are going to cancel. 2x equals 22, so x equals 11. Did you do well? I hope you're smiling. All right, next one is solving variables or equations. You do this a ton in science. So I want to solve for z. If you look in here, this is really weird because the z's top and bottom. So let's just see what the first thing we have to get is a common denominator. So put the x over 1. So he needs a y plus z. So this is gone. So let's do this distribution. So now I have xy plus xz equals yz. Now it's the same as before. The variable you're solving for needs to go on one side, everybody else on the other. Xy does not have a z, so I leave him. Xz has a z, so I'm going to move him over to this guy. So let's subtract him out. So he's gone from this side. Well, now when I look at here, I still have two z's, but they have a z in common, so that's your greatest common factor. So let's factor him out of this side of the equation. Right? To get the z alone, I just have to divide by the y minus x. This cancels, so your final thing is z is equal to xy over y minus x. All right, try yours. Okay, you're solving for p. You have p, q, and f. So that means this guy needs a q and an f. Q and an f. I do not know why that disappeared. This guy has a q, so he needs a p and an f. This guy needs a p and a q. Okay, denominators are the same, they're gone. So now we have qf plus pf equals pq. I'm solving for p. So all the p's have to go on the same side of the equation. So we're going to subtract this guy over. So let's move him. So we're going to subtract the pf. So now we have qf is equal to pq minus pf. They have the p in common, which is what we were hoping for. So we're going to factor out the p. So now I have to get the p alone, so I have to divide by the q minus f. So p is equal to qf divided by q minus f. Did you do well? They're kind of fun when you start to play with them. Absolute value equations always have two answers, and that's because the absolute value of 3 is equal to 3, but so is the absolute value of negative 3 is equal to 3. So if I have an x in here, so if this was an x, it could be two different things, the 3 or the negative 3. So there's always two answers because you don't know which sign this is. So when we're doing these, the first thing we do is we have to get the absolute value alone so we know what value we're trying to make it equal. So we're going to add the 15. So you do 5 times the absolute value of 1 minus 4x equals 15. Now you got to get it alone, so we're going to divide by 5, just like parentheses. So now you have, so you're going to divide by 5. So you're at the absolute value of 4 minus x equals 3. But that means this inside value here can either equal the 3 or the negative 3, because when I take the absolute value, it's positive. So the 1 minus 4x, the inside, can equal 3, or it can equal negative 3, because the absolute value of both of those are 3. Now you just solve these, so let's subtract our 1. So negative 4x is equal to 2. So x is equal to a negative 2/4 or a negative 1/2. Over here, let's subtract our 1. So negative 4x is equal to a negative 4. So x is equal to 1. So it can be either negative 1/2 or 1. Pause and try yours. First step is you should have added the 20. So you have 4, absolute value of 1 minus 2x equals 20 divided by the 4. So 1 minus 2x, absolute value, is equal to 5. Set up your two equations. 1 minus 2x equals the positive 5, and 1 minus 2x equals the negative 5. Subtract your 1, so a negative 2x equals 4. So x divided by negative 2 is equal to negative 2. Here, subtract your 1, so your negative 2x is equal to negative 6. Divide by your negative 2. I'm out of room, so I'm not writing this down. X is equal to 3. So you have two answers, which you should have on an absolute value. All right, so we're going to solve this one here by factoring. We've done this a couple of times, so this one should go quickly. First step is you set it equal to 0. So you get 2x plus x minus 1 equals 0. Remember, we multiply these together. Factors of negative 2x that give us a positive x, so we know we have a 2x and a 1x. I need a positive x, so the x must be negative. Bring down your first and your last terms. So you have 2x squared plus 2x minus 1. Group. Make sure this is plus a negative here. Take out your 2x, x plus 1. Take out your negative 1, x plus 1. Okay, I'm going to move up here because I'm out of room. So I'm going to take up the x plus 1, and then 2x minus 1 equal to 0. So if I set x plus 1 equals 0, x equals negative 1, 2x minus 1 equals 0. So you're going to add the 1 divided by 2, so x equals 1/2. All right, pause and try yours. First step is, I hope you move the 5x in the middle. So now you've got, I'm going to go over a little bit, 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals 0. Multiply negative 6x squared. So you know you have a 6x and an x. I need a negative 5x, so that negative 6x and a positive x. Bring down your first term. Carry down your last term. Group them together. Take out what they have in common. And remember, this here has nothing in common, but technically that's a 1. You don't need to write that, but if it helps you, please do so. So x minus 2, 3x plus 1 equals 0. Set them both equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. 3x plus 1 equals 0. So this means right here that x is equal to 2. And this one means that x is equal to, subtract your 1 and divide by your 3, negative 1/3. Did you do well? Okay. Next part is just using the square root, which you've done forever. Also, I don't know if you've ever called it a square root property though. All we do here is we get the x by itself. So first we add the 45. So 5x squared equals 45. Divide by 5. So x squared equals 9. Now we take the square root. But remember, when you take the square root of a number, whoops, this is equal to, it's plus or minus 3. Not just a positive 3. You will have forgotten one full root. Your turn. Okay, add your 24. Divide by 2. Take your square root. So remember, you have to put the plus or minus the square root of 12. But we know that 12 is 4 times 3. So we know that's really plus or minus 2 square roots of 3. Make sure you put those down in separate form for me. Okay, completing the square. You did a ton of this in Algebra 2. So when you do this, remember you take half the middle term and you square it to get this sign. And then this half that middle term is also what you're factoring into. You're trying to create a perfect square trinomial. Remember those is what we're doing. So first step, this term has to be a 1. So we're going to divide everybody by 3. So now we have x squared plus 4/3 x minus 1/3 equals 0. This guy's in the way, so we're going to move him to the other side. So you have x squared plus 4/3 x plus, we don't know yet, so we put a little blank, equals the 1/3, and whatever I add to one side, I must add to the other to keep my balance. So in your head, you're saying, what is half of 4/3? Well, half of 4/3 you know is 2/3. All right, so then you have to square that because it's completing the square. I need a perfect square over here. So now that adds 4/9. I just made a perfect square trinomial. So I know that is x, so I use a sign, plus half that middle term, which is 2/3 squared, equals, add these two up. Well, I need a common denominator, so I got to multiply by 3. And 3 plus 4 is 7/9. Now you use your square root property, so you square root both sides. I'm going to do top and bottom together. So I'm at x plus 2/3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 7, because it doesn't have one, over 3. I have to subtract the 2/3, and since they're both a third, I can just put this in the numerator. So x is equal to minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 7 over 3. Okay, your turn. Let's see how you're doing. I'm going to erase this work over here so we have enough room to do yours. Hopefully you paused this and did your problem. Okay, now let's look here. Yours is a little bit nicer. Nothing to divide by because there's a 1 in front of here. So I just need to move this 2 and get him out of my way. So x squared plus 6x plus, I don't know what I'm going to add there yet, equals a negative 2 plus whatever I add. So in your head, you're taking what is half of 6. Well, half of 6 is 3. And I have to square that. So that's 9. Because look at here, factors of 9 that add to 6 are 3 and 3. Who knew? X plus 3 squared equals 7. So now we got to solve this. So we take the square root of both sides. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus, don't forget that, the square root of 7. I have to subtract the 3 over. So it's minus 3 plus or minus the square roots of 7. Well done. I'm hoping you remember the song, quadratic formula. We've sang it enough. So the quadratic formula is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Sing that if you don't know that, so you get it memorized. It's another way of solving. So what we do here, you have to recognize that a is your number in front of the x squared, so a is equal to 2. B is in front of the x, so b equals 3. And c is the number by itself, or your linear term. Now I just plug them in. So x is equal to the opposite of b, so minus 3, plus or minus the square root, b squared, well that's 9, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 1, all over 2 times a. And you can plug that in your calculator or do it yourself, because 9 minus 8 is 1. Square root of 1 is just 1, so now we have minus 3 plus 1 over 4. Remember, you have to do both. And minus 3 minus 1 over 4. Minus 3 plus 1 is your negative 2, so that's a negative 1/2. Or negative 4 over 4, negative 1 is your solutions to your x. I hope you did well. Discriminant is just the name for the b squared minus 4ac, or what's underneath the radical. Sometimes we're asked for the discriminant only. All right, if the discriminant is positive, so like if it's 7, there will be 2 real solutions. They might be rational or irrational, we don't know, but I know I have 2 of them. I know they're real because I can take the square root of 7. The discriminant is 0, and there's only one solution because the square root of 0 is just 0. There's not 2 answers there. If it is negative, there are 2 again, but now they're imaginary. It's like the square root of a -1 is I, if you remember. So we have imaginary solutions here. So what's the discriminant? Now remember, the discriminant is this b squared minus 4ac. I know a is 5. I know b is -3. I know c is 2. So b squared, -3 squared is 9, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is 2. So now we've got 9 minus 40, which is a -31. Okay, if it's negative, I know I have 2 solutions because there's 2 answers to a number. And if it's negative, I know it's an imaginary solution. Oops. It means it doesn't cross the x-axis when we go to graph those later. Only real solutions cross the x-axis. All right, let's look at our story problem. So what do I know? Let's read this. The formula, okay, so they're going to give us a formula, which is nice, is P equals 0.01 a squared plus 0.05 a plus 107. By the way, you should have paused this and tried it by yourself first. If you haven't, do that now. Okay, when I go down here, I know P is a woman's blood pressure. I know A is her age. And there's year. I want to find, so what I don't know is I have to find A when P is 115. So let's go to our formula. 115 equals 0.01 a squared plus 0.05a plus 107. Whoops, sorry, 7. We're going to subtract the 115 because we have to set it equal to 0. So now we know 0.01 a squared plus 0.05a minus 8. All right, so now you got choices. Do I want to complete the square? Do I want to try to factor that thing? Or do I want to use the quadratic formula? Well, all of those look a tad bit ugly to me. So I'm going to do the quadratic formula because I think it looks the easiest. But you can do whatever you would like to try. So A equals B, 0.05, plus or minus the square root of B squared. So 0.05 is 0.0025. Minus 4 times A, which is 0.01, times C, which is -8, all over 2A, 0.01. I would plug that all into my calculator, especially if you have a fraction key. I don't know what that is. So if you have a fraction, okay, obviously I'm doing the same thing. You have a fraction key, plug it in and see what your answer is. And that's all I did. I plugged it into my calculator. And when I used the positive, I got A equals 30.89. So the nearest year would be 31 years. And when I used the negative, I got a negative 25.89, I think. And that's not possible. You can't have negative years. So my answer is 31 years old. I hope you did well. All right, we're getting close. Now we have to solve radicals. All right, this problem actually started out like this. It started out the square root of x minus 5 minus the square root of x plus 1 equals 3. All right, your first job is to get one radical by itself. It doesn't really matter. So I added the x square root of x plus 1 over. Then you're going to clear this one by squaring it. And then you're going to isolate the other radical that shows up and then clear it by squaring it. So you do the same thing twice if there's 2 of them. So my first step is I move this guy over. Second step, I need to clear this. So I have to square both sides, but you got to be careful. So when we square this, that just cancels the radical. That one's really nice over here. Not so much over here, because remember, squaring means you have 2 of them. So you're multiplying this out or distributing it. So the square root of x plus 1 times the square root of x plus 1, well, that's just x plus 1. That's not so bad. But the next one, now you have 3 square roots of x plus 1, and then you have another one, because remember you're squaring, so you're really doubling this. So that's 6 square roots of x plus 1, plus your last term, which is your 3 times 3, which is 9. Now let's put some of this together. So we got x minus 5 equals x plus 10 plus 6 square roots of x plus 1. All right, now I have to get this alone. So I have to subtract the x, I have to subtract the 10. I think we'll stop right there just for a second. So now I got negative 15 is equal to 6 times the square root of x plus 1. I still don't have the square root alone. So I have to divide by 6 so I can isolate him. So when I divide by 6, I can take out a 3 here. So that's a negative 5 over 2 equals the square root of x plus 1. Now to clear him, I must square both sides. Once you do this, you are introducing roots that may or may not work. You always have to be careful. So once you square both sides, you're going to get, I'm going to move up because I'm out of room, 25 over 4 equals x plus 1. Subtract the 1. So I'm really subtracting 4 fourths, right? So if I subtract 4 from 25, that's 21 fourths equals x. Because you squared both sides, this may or may not be true, so we have to check it. So 21 fourths is 5 fourths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in to this equation up here, my original, to see if this works. So if I take the square root of 5.25 minus 5, right? Does that equal the square root of 5.25 plus 1 plus 3? Well, this is the square root of a fourth, which is a half. There is no way 1/2 is going to equal 3 plus something. So this is larger than 3, right? Not possible. So there are no solutions to this. All right, try yours. Let's see if yours works out better. First step, subtract the 3. So now you have the square root of x plus 3 equals x minus 3. Yours only has one radical, so it's a little bit smaller. Square both sides. So now x plus 3. Square this, so it's x squared. Multiply and double, so that's negative 6x. Square the last. Set this equal to 0. So subtract your x and your 3. So 0 is equal to x squared minus 7x plus 6. Ooh, what a nice factor. So that's x minus 6, x minus 1. So x can equal 6 or x can equal 1. Or it could equal both or none of them. So we have to, have to check. So let's go up here and let's plug in a 6 up here. So now we're checking. So we're going to plug in the square root of 6 plus 3 plus 3. Does that equal 6? Well, this is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. Check. This one works. We're liking him. Let's check the 1. Square root of 1 plus 3 plus 3. Is that equal to 1? Well, that's not possible. There's no way I can add something to 3 and get 1. In this case, it's even easy to see. So 4, square root of 4 is 2. So does 5 equal 1? The answer is no. This is bad. So 1 does not work. Your only solution is 6. All right, we're almost there. Okay, we're going to look at our equation. I'm going to see how this works. So the first thing they give us, we have a low sense of humor. So what do I know? So when I know this, I know my depression rate for a low sense of humor. The formula is D equals 10/9 over X. I would like you to pause and try this before you look at this, please. So pause, try the problem. I know the formula. I know that D stands for depression. I know that X stands for the intensity of your life event. And I want to know what X is when D is 10. This is what I don't know. All right, so if D is 10, first thing I'm going to do is get rid of these 9s because I just don't like fractions if I don't have to work with them. Let's multiply everybody by 9, make my problem prettier. So 90 equals 10x plus 53. Doesn't that just look so nice and pretty? Subtract your 53, so that gives us what, 37 equals 10x. So that means x is equal to 3.7. So it's an intensity, so it's a 3.7 intensity life event. Not real sure what that all means, but that's what it can be. All right, you should be on to your homework. Good luck. Make sure you're posting discussions and helping each other. Have a great day, and sorry for the long video.